So, Annie, still about 6 months on, and we are still talking about the events of January 6th. What happened? Who's to blame? And this is a big talker on Capitol Hill. So, kind of walk me through this.
Well, who's to blame? We may never actually get an answer to that. That is still an absolute contention. Nobody is agreeing on that between the two parties. But what they are pretty much, for the most part, agreeing on are the facts of what happened, that this was an attack on the Capitol. You just heard me say, for the most part, that's because there are about four Republicans in Congress, one in the Senate and a few in the House, who are really saying that this wasn't an attack on Congress. We're seeing one saying that this was almost like a regular tourist visit to the Capitol, people taking pictures. Others saying that it wasn't an insurrection because they followed the rope lines that the Capitol has laid out. Another one saying that at times this was more like a peaceful protest than a riot. So that's where we're getting kind of the pushback, but it is a very few limited members of Congress who are really disputing the facts of what happened.
Right. And we'll have some people watching who are thinking, why are we still talking about this? But Nancy Pelosi is actually taking some actions months on to say, hey, there are answers we don't have, and I want them.
Yeah. So last week she announced that they are going to be forming a select committee to investigate what happened, both with the white supremacy aspect is one thing she said she wants to look into, and also the response, the law enforcement response of what happened. And she says she wants to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So that was just announced last week. So we don't know a lot of the firm details on this, but this is going to be a select committee. And if that sounds familiar, that's what kind of the Benghazi investigation was. And so these do run the risk of becoming very political and very partisan.
Okay, so this committee, as well as, the three or four members of the Republican Party, what lasting impacts will that have on Capitol Hill? The fact that we have both sides still trying to figure out what the answers are, what they believe, what the party believes.
So we are expecting a lot to come out in this select committee once that gets rolling. We still don't know if it's going to have subpoena power. And so kind of the impacts on Congress are still to be determined. Obviously, this is going to be an ongoing thing. Speaker Pelosi has said that the select committee will end when it needs to. But one thing that we can predict that we're going to see is we're going to see this a lot, especially the quotes from the January 6th deniers. We're going to see that a lot in the ads rolling out into the midterms, both in these representative and senators districts and states, but also I really think that we're going to see it from the Democratic Party as a whole to try and paint the Republican Party and their Republican opponent as one of these people who's like, hey, they think what happened January 6th is fine. But again, this is a very small number of January 6th deniers, and none of them are in Republican leadership. None of them are ranking members of their committees. Some do lead their subcommittees, but no full committee. And we've seen a lot of Republicans come out and say, no, what happened January 6th was an attack. So again, this is a very limited number of people that are denying what happened.
All right, Annie. So even though this happened about 6 months ago, we are still feeling the impact both on Capitol Hill, but also some of those first rioters are starting to be sentenced. So we'll continue to see January 6th and the photos and the videos from that day on our news cycle.
Yes, definitely. I can promise you that.
Thanks, Annie.
Thanks.